Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Fly With Us podcast. This podcast is bringing the art of conversation, self love, self care, mental health care and protection, life lessons, love lessons, and everything in between. Today, we're going to talk about our year in review. I'm Lady Bounce.
And I am Picket Fence.
Okay, so
First, go ahead.
what's
Go
up?
ahead.
Now you
I
go.
was going to say, first of all, you mentioned it last week, but we have to say again, thank you for those that nominated and voted for us for Dayton's best local podcast. We did win.
Yes.
For the next year coming up, we will be Dayton's best podcast. And I hope that you continue to fly with us, and we can do our best to continue to bring you dope content when it comes to self-care, mental health care, and all the things in between. Word up. Let's jump into this Mindfulness Minute for this week. It's called Ready for Change. I'm willing to let go of some things in order to gain some things. I surrender darker sides of my own nature in order to welcome the light that is now arriving. Are you ready to give up that pessimistic slant of mind, that gloomy disposition, that dull lethargy? It is perfectly possible to change aspects of our personalities that may have been in place for decades. But first, we have to be willing to do the work, to say yes to the possibility of change. We have to renounce whatever hidden benefits we receive from the old traits and also embrace the positive and negatives of the new traits that we would like to adopt. Then we have to work very diligently for a long time to replace the old habits with new ones so that it becomes automatic parts of our nature.
Word up.
Now, the reason I picked that is because, and at the end of the year, most people do a reflection of their year and they start making plans for the new year. And that's what our show is about today, is reflecting on our year that we had. And we're going to specifically, since we are voted Dayton's best podcast, talk about some of our favorite shows and our favorite guests that we've had over this year.
Okay.
You ready?
Ready. Let's go.
Okay. Now, let's start with our top 3 episodes. And this is in no particular order for me. I just picked my 3 favorite episodes. Okay. So, I'll start with, we did a hip hop series in November. For the whole month of November, we talked about hip hop each week, a different specific area of hip hop. And out of that came one of my favorite shows, and it was the first one. It was called What is Hip Hop? We had great guests on our panel. We had a panel for each week. And on that week, we had Many Faces, Cooley the Curator, and Soup. And we all broke down what is hip hop to us. Those 3 including us too. So 5 of us all broke down what hip hop is to us. And that episode kicked off the Hip Hop History Month. And I thought that show was just really incredible. One, because you had different age groups. You had Soup, who was early 30s. You had Cooley, who was reaching late 30s. You had Lady Bounce, early 40s. You had Manny Fresh and me, late 40s going into 50s. So that covers the starts of hip hop into its current state of hip hop. So that was I thought that was one of my favorite episodes. Of course, it was also one of my favorite episodes because I am a hip hop artist myself. I love hip hop. That is my culture. And I don't know where I would be without it. So that's one of my favorite episodes over the last year.
Okay. So my first favorite episode is also from the hip hop series that we did. I thought the show itself was very timely. It was very much needed. I think it was a discussion that had to be had. I think the it's a discussion that we need to have more often and in bigger circles, um, with different age groups of people, where everybody kind of gets a chance to, talk about this thing that we love, but can also be very detrimental to us in some ways if not handled properly. So with that, my favorite episode from the hip hop series was the women in hip hop episode, because I had my dear friend Shakesha Bell was on there. Doc Rock came through all the way from Baltimore. We also had was it just those two? No, I'm missing somebody.
Yeah, who else was on that?
I think that was it then. Was Dan on that show?
I think he might have been. That was the one with Dan
so
Tress.
Dan Tress Omi, shout out to Dan, Shakesha Bell, and then Doc Rock.
Yeah, Dan definitely was on it. That was the episode that Dan Tress Omi was on. Yeah. So, yeah, I thought that was dope too. Oh, go ahead. Just your pick.
So I mean, for me, being a female myself, obviously, and then being a fan of hip hop, I sometimes fall into that whole thing. I love this song, but these lyrics are trash. I love this song, but this isn't a song that I would play, around my students or around my children, necessarily. And then it really gave us a chance to get into the whole sexuality in hip hop. Is it owning your sexuality? Is it prostitution? Where does it lie, and who's responsible, and how do we take control of it in some ways, to keep it where it is, but also to protect it from the wrong message being sent when it comes to, women in hip hop. Like, we don't gotta be grimy and thugged out like the dudes, but we also don't have to be naked all the time either. Like, there's definitely some balance needed. So I think that was a real good, timely discussion, and having so many women on the panel on the way in was just really dope.
Yeah, I thought that was real dope too. I wish that we could have gotten some younger women on that episode. I know that pretty much everybody was pretty much in the same age range on that episode. But what I did like about it is that you got to hear from women from different areas. You being here in Dayton, Doc Rock in Baltimore, and Shakesha Bell in Pittsburgh. You kind of got to hear how hip hop emerged from a women's aspect in those different areas. Because Baltimore has its sound. Dayton is mostly known for funk music, and when it comes to hip hop, you hear more of a West Coast sound. And then you have Shakesha explained she liked the ghetto hip hop and the East Coast and the boom bap, because they're right there in the middle. They're close to Philly, a few hours away from Philly. They're 5 hours from us, I think 5 or 6 hours from Philly. So they're right there in the middle of things. And Dan being an old school hip hop head, I think it was a great conversation, and we got the table was open to discuss, women in hip hop, and did they have a place? Do they have a place in hip hop, which everybody agreed on? And I think the most consensus is that we need balance in hip hop, and I think that was kind of covered throughout the whole series that we did for hip hop, is that we don't have enough balance when it comes to hip hop. It's not that anybody needs to be axed off, even though you may not like some of it, which a lot of it I don't like. Is that I think that the problem is that we don't have enough balance in hip hop, and I think that was the overall census throughout the whole series, is having balance in hip hop, or bringing a balance to hip hop. So that was real dope. I'm glad you picked one from the hip hop series. I think that was, if somebody's watching, they should give us a podcast award for that one. I mean, we did get an award this year. We did get an award this year for best Dayton's Best Podcast, but that series specifically was really dope. We will be doing something again for hip hop again next month, because hip hop is important to all of us. It is the dominating culture in the world right now. So moving on
All right,
to
let's
my
move on.
to another one of my top three. Like I said, these are no particular order.
Okay.
Um, Boost your spirituality. With our
Ooh.
guest S. Ali Myers, which I've talked about before. S. Ali Myers now goes by the name of Indra Ali, but I've talked about before that he is my spiritual teacher. Um, and he talked to us. The episode was basically about people who are stepping into spirituality and how you can take those steps into away from organized religion into spirituality. And we talked about different aspects of spirituality and different modalities of spirituality on that episode, which Ali does train and teach on all different type of modalities when it comes to spirituality. Oh, and before we get too far into it, I forgot to say the episode number of my favorite one from the last one, which is for people that want to go back and check, because this is a show about reflecting. So if you missed it, the What is Hip Hop episode was 125. Do you know the episode number of Women in Hip Hop? I think it was 127.
Give me 2 seconds and I will confirm. You are correct. That was episode 127.
Okay. And talking now about boosting your spirituality with S. Ali Myers, who now goes by Indra Ali, that was episode 87. What did you think about episode 87?
I actually liked it. I learned a lot because, as you said, that he's your spiritual teacher, and the things that you get from him, you learn from him. You share some of it with me, but not a lot because I'm not in the class. Some of it I don't understand because I miss pieces of it. So the chunks and pieces that I do get from it have been very helpful in a lot of ways. They've been helpful, for me to get onto my own spiritual practice that looks like mine. So it's not like somebody's telling me what to do or how to do it. I was able to build my own spiritual practice that works for me. And I think one of the things that Ali said in that episode that I thought was really, really important is that what spirituality looks like for you is not what it's going to look like for somebody else. And it shouldn't. So many times we get involved with stuff when we go, okay, well, my walk don't look like his walk, or my song don't sound like her song when I sing it. It's not supposed to. That's why it's self-work and mastery of self.
Definitely. And that's one of the biggest things that he teaches is that your spiritual walk is your spiritual walk. He just gives you the options of different modalities and different rituals and techniques that you can use to get on your path. He teaches self-mastery, becoming your own master. So that was dope. And also, there wasn't an episode that we broadcasted that we were able to record and save. Is Ali was also on our panel for the Dayton African American Cultural Festival, which we hosted 2 separate days. Our podcast, a live version of our podcast, and Ali and Jasmine Bell, who has been a guest in the past, both sat on that panel too. So shout out to Jazz and Ali, who were on that panel and who have been guests on the show. What's your second?
Okay, so I had to go and look up the episode numbers since we're throwing out episode numbers. You can't have me out here looking like a my homework.
I just thought about it when I was thinking about it, because like we said, it was about reflection, and I want people to, hey, if you're flying with us and you missed it, you can go to YouTube and go to the Fly With Us podcast page, and each episode is numbered. So if you like if you missed it before and you're listening now, you can go check out those episodes. Go ahead.
Okay. So my second pick for my favorite show was episode number 82, which I actually ended up doing by myself. And that was with our special guest Conscious from Bonfire Radio out of New York. And if you haven't heard of Bonfire Radio, I don't know why we talk about it enough on this show. Bonfireradio.com has independent content by independent artists and DJs and podcasts. There's a financial literacy show, there's a jazz show, there's brunch and budget. I mean, there's so many different things on bonfireradio.com that, you could just listen all day long. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so Conscious was talking about self-work and why it matters. And so for me, that was one of my favorite episodes, because that is the epitome of what our show is about doing the work to master self, to make sure that no matter what life throws at you, you are still living your best life in spite of. Because so many times we get caught up in the blows that we take in life that we forget to just enjoy the fact that we are even here to get these blows thrown at us. We get so caught up in the hustle and bustle of just, living and making money and paying bills. And then before we realize it, it's time to die. And we're going, what did I do with my life? So he definitely talked about that. It was timely and relevant advice to really get on mastering yourself, because again, that's what we talk about. But he gave really easy, concrete ways to start a practice of mastering and working, yourself, which that can't be beat. So that was episode number 82 with Conscious, and he's got a t-shirt line where he's got shirts that say, I'm a mental health advocate, and
Self-work matters.
Definitely.
Word up. Word up. Shout out to Conscious. That's family, and like you said, check out Bonfire Radio. If you're tired of the radio hearing the 7 same songs a day on every station, everybody has a smartphone, which most of us usually plug it up in our cars when we're driving. Check out bonfireradio.com. They even have a game show that they do every Friday. That's real dope. It's called Am I the Asshole? Be sure to check that out. Antifa is the acronym. It's really dope with TK and Conscious both on there. Friday nights is really dope. The warm up, how you say it? The turn up before the warm up before the turn up.
Yeah.
Is that how you say it? Yeah. And they just have, there's heavy content on there so that you don't have to hear the same 7 songs every day. There's the overnight on Sundays, which is real dope. Conscious selects a playlist. K Swiss has a show on Tuesdays where he just gives you all new black music from all different genres, not just rap, not just R&B. If there's a African American artist doing grunge work, you're gonna hear that. So check that out too. Moving on, my third episode that was in my top 3 is Black Mental Health Awareness with our special guest David Archer, and that was episode 131. That was just last week, right? Last week.
Yep.
First of all, we were hypnotized by Brother Archer's voice. He was so soothing, and he broke down mental health specifically for African Americans with the trauma that we have gone through and continue to go through being in this country and all across the world. Our loss of language and culture, and how that gives us PTSD. And he gave us some information from his books. He has 2 different books. One is called Black Meditation. I can't recall the other book title name, but he talked about therapy from a black aspect, and with all the things that we go through just being black in this world, and being comfortable with being black in this world, and having our own identities as black people in this world, and for our lost culture, not being afraid to create our own culture. So that was my number 3. It was really, really dope. That was just last week, so it's easy for you to find. That was episode 131 with David Archer.
Yes.
What did you think about that episode?
Oh, I love that episode. First of all, again, his voice was very calming and soothing, and I just kind of got lost for a while. Like, yeah, that's right. And it was there were like some moments where he was saying different things, and I was getting fired up inside. Like, yeah, you're right. Keep saying that. Like, say it to the masses. Like, it was really resonating with what we go through. And because you and I have conversations all the time about will it ever be you know, illegal to kill us, or to mistreat us? Like, will we ever get to a point where we have some justice? And I don't mean just a sprinkle here or a sprinkle there, but I mean
Right.
where it's across the board. You can't do this to another human.
Right. Because
At the
we often
base level.
say, like you're saying, we often say it feels like it's illegal to be black. Like
Yes.
the crime is being black. And they keep throwing it in our face. We have our history stolen, because every history movie when it comes to black people starts as slavery. Like, there weren't black people until there was slavery.
Right.
And it's like Archer was saying, is that they want you to know your place. This is
Yeah.
where you really belong. And when it comes to the history of you, this is your start, and this is what you should always focus on. So I don't want to ever see another slave movie, ever,
Right.
ever, ever.
I'm with it.
I'm done with it. Moving on.
Moving
So
on.
your third. What was your third?
So my
in your
my
top
number 3 was episode number 94, when we talked about public decorum.
Oh,
Yeah. So that episode was very personal for me. And not that our other episodes are not personal for me, but that one really, really hit home, because it came out of a situation where I was standing in line at the store, and I listened to these two men have, a very ignorant and vulgar conversation about a woman, like it was just nothing. And I'm not saying that there are not foul men and women in this world and that it shouldn't be talked about or joked about. I'm not saying that at all. But the fact that there were 3 women standing there as they had this conversation, I just had to look at them and go, maybe y'all could have talked about that outside, or maybe
you're in a public place. You're
right,
in a public space.
and there's 3 women, standing here.
Mhm.
And I think, which I talk about all the time because I work with teenagers, that we have to set a better example. We have to show them better. And if, I wonder, when I looked back on that situation, would it have been different if my daughter was standing there? Or if my son was standing there? Would they have not had that conversation? Or would they have chosen different words or a different way to talk about it?
I don't think that they would have, because people, for some reason, nowadays, they don't have respect for their fellow humans. They think that they have the right to say whatever they want to say, whenever they want to say, in front of whoever they want to say. That's why you have kids cussing out teachers. I mean, in my day, you curse at school, you'll get suspended for that. And we have rules ourselves. That I've always been a cursor since the day I started talking, and that's facts. That's not like what do you call it? Just an exaggeration. That's facts. When I started talking, it was cursing. That I've talked about before. But we had rules as kids for ourselves that we don't curse in front of adults.
Right.
We curse amongst ourselves. We're not cursing at adults or even in front of adults, especially elderly people. So I don't think the conversation would have changed in that situation. But hopefully those guys will catch a hold of the show and learn some things.
Right.
Word up. All right. So that was our top 3 shows.
Yes.
Let's talk about our top 3 guests, and we'll go through this pretty quick, because I think some of our guests are going to be part of our top 3 shows.
Probably so.
So for me, and this is again in no particular order, one of my favorite guests was Taye Uhuru.
Oh yeah.
Taye Uhuru.
Yeah.
Young brother out of Cleveland. He also goes by the name of Camp Cleveland. He was our guest on episode 105. He's an author. He has a book. Go check that out. It's about, I think he said his uncle and his family were involved in like a community organization out of Cleveland that was similar to like the Black Panthers or the Marcus Garvey movement. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but he has a book. You can check him out. He's on Facebook and everywhere. Camp Cleveland. Taye Uhuru. Episode 105. He was real dope, young artist, and he also does tours back to Africa.
Yes.
several different countries. You can get packages for one country or packages to go to a couple different countries. So he does that.
And
Does
there's payment
teaching.
plans.
Yeah, there's pay. That's very important. That money be
Yes.
tight sometimes. So
Hey.
check him out. That was episode 105 to get more information on that. I was one of my favorite guests. Like I said, it's a young brother doing big things. So shout out to him. What was one of your top three guests?
Um. So for me, David Archer. Um. Like mine is in no particular order, but that show was just incredible. He
Definitely.
uh, he answered our questions. He gave in-depth answers. He was very easy to talk to, which is important. Sometimes um, people get nervous when they're not used to doing this.
Hmm.
Being on shows and whatnot. But he was very easy to talk to. He gave good, clear answers. He gave concrete steps, which for me is really kind of what hit home. Is that he was able to say, "Do A, B, and C, and do it this way," as opposed to, you try it and see what works. No, he was like, this is how we need to handle it. This is how we break down this issue. This is how we solve the problem. And then these are little things that you can do in your neighborhood, in your household, in your circle to make things better, to get over the PTSD and help somebody else get over it too.
Word up. And people were hitting me up about that episode. Shout out to Tyrone Williams, who does a thing called Vigil every Saturday night. It's basically like video journaling. And his episode this past Saturday, he was really talking about how dope that episode was. And he enjoyed hearing him talk about, us dealing with childhood trauma and also trauma as a people. So that's a dope episode 131. Check
Yeah.
it out. My next one would be, of course, was one of my top episodes, which was with S. Ali Myers, Aka Indra Ali. I talk to Ali all the time. Like I say, he's my spiritual teacher. I've had him on my albums. So I mean, and he makes spirituality and self mastery very simply.
Yes.
He simply lays it out. If you do the work, you're gonna get results, and that's all to it in there. So dope. That was one of my second favorite ones. You go ahead to yours.
Okay, so my second favorite one was episode 122 when we talked to Michelle Person.
Mm-hmm.
And Michelle Person used to be a teacher, used to be a principal. She got tired of the red tape and the bureaucracy that falls in line in education. And instead of her simply just quitting and walking away, she decided to do something about the different things that she was seeing in schools. So what she did was she wrote a series of culturally relevant books with characters who look like us, who have names like us. There was no, Mindy and Josh. These characters look like us, sound like us, act like us, and they have adventures like you would find in other books. And so that show was called Why Representation Matters. So if you didn't already know, representation does matter. When kids see themselves in books or see characters that look like them and come from where they come from, it builds their self-esteem. It lets them know that these things that you see are possible, and they are possible for you. We can be wizards and dragon slayers, and we can be president, and we can, have these really great adventures. We can travel, we can soar. And her book series is all about that. So her website is justlikemepresents.com. And she also has a podcast called the Rewoke Podcast. So if you haven't checked out her podcast, please go check it out. She's on all platforms too. Her website is Just Like Me Presents. She's also on TikTok, and her TikTok videos are they're hilarious. And then, she's got some where she's rapping and always showing off her books. The books are actually economically priced as well. So they're not like, $40, $50 a book. Like, you can actually buy and afford these books for your kids, for your grandkids. We actually got 2 of her books for our goddaughter. So when she gets a little bit older and she can really read, then we'll be giving those books to her. So, shout out to Michelle Person. And in my head, she's like my new best friend. So we have to like go out to lunch or like go hang out or something. Like I want to be friends with her for real. Like let's just go. Let's hang. Let's be buddies.
Word up, word up. And that was my third from my top three. That was my third person. Definitely, Michelle Person was really dope. The books are dope. When you talk about why representation matters, that's why I'm an Afrofuturist, because I'm a big sci-fi head, and the reason a big thing for Afrofuturism is that for people who love sci-fi and have loved sci-fi for years, you may notice that there aren't too many black people in the future in sci-fi movies.
I say that all the time. Like, what do we die in 2082? Like, why we not here?
Right. So, I mean, you're seeing more now. There's still only one or two. I mean, we talk about in the 60s with Star Trek, there was just one. I mean, they had a couple of black people, guys here and there. But still, even today, you see one or two. So I'm an Afrofuturist on the music aspect. I put a lot of sci-fi, cartoon type of stuff in my music to let people know that it's okay to be a black nerd.
I like it.
It's okay to love a blurred indeed, to like sci-fi and like how you said adventure type of stuff and Harry Potter. And I mean, I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but it's okay for black people to like that type of stuff and Dungeons and Dragons and all that stuff. We like all that stuff too, and we would like to be a part of it, and it's okay for us to be a part of it. So word up, that was my third one. So what was your third one? Because you had my third one already listed as your number two. So
okay, so my third one, like, and again, these are in no particular order. It's just the way I happened to write them down. But it was Valerie J. Lewis Coleman, from Pen of the Writer. I picked her because not only was her knowledge timely, it was very informative. And if you're not familiar with her, she has her own books that she has written, but she also does writers' workshops where she teaches other people how to write books, how to publish a book, how to understand the language in the contracts, how to make sure that you're getting good editing and you're getting good prices for the services. And talking to her kind of reminded me of like when Hype Williams was doing Belly, or when Spike Lee was making Malcolm X and he was talking about, they were giving him inferior film and the lighting wasn't as good. And so it was like they were trying to sabotage the quality of the movie. So what Valerie does when in her workshops, in her one-on-one consulting, is she teaches you how to get the best for your book, how to get the best editor, how to get the best illustrators if that's what you need, how to get it published without losing your royalties. So so for me that was really, really important. I know we kind of had a whole series where we talked to a bunch of authors, and even some of the authors that we talked to were authors who took her workshop. So we found that out later, and they were like, oh yeah, you had Valerie on the show, I took her workshop and they helped me with my book. So having her exist is incredible. So when I get ready to write my book, she'll be the first one that I'm calling to say, hey, I want to put you on the payroll. I want you to consult. I want you to help. This is my idea. What's the best way to go about it? Because she kind of helps people avoid the pitfalls that writers fall into. So she has a book that she wrote about her granddaughters. So it's a children's book. She has 2 children's books in that series right now. She's working on a third. Then she has her books where she's talking about how to be a writer and what goes into the mechanics of becoming a writer, a published author. So again, her website is penofthewriter.com. She's on Facebook and she's on other platforms as Valerie J. Lewis Coleman. So yeah.
Word up. We've had a pretty big year.
Yeah, we have.
For those that don't know, we like I said, we hosted 2 days at the Dayton African American Culture Festival. We hosted at the What's Going On Dayton Homeless Picnic and Book Bag Giveaway and community cookout. And now we're winners of Dayton's Best Local Podcast. We want to thank everybody again who nominated and voted for us. We want to thank all of our guests who helped make our show what it is. And we got guests lined up now for the new year for you. So keep flying with us for the people that have been watching and listening. We are on all formats, whether you like Apple, whether you like Spotify, whether you like watching it versus just listening to it on YouTube and on Facebook. We're also on SoundCloud and Anchor if you just like to listen. We want to thank you for all the people that voted for us. And we hope that we can hold the title down for this next year. Like I said, we're recording a couple of more shows for this year before we take a little break. We got to take a little time off, but the shows won't stop. We will still have shows for you every week. And what else? Oh, Lady Bounce is also DJ Lady Bounce, who will be starting her residency at the Barrel House, our favorite drinking hole, starting January 21st.
Yes.
So be on the lookout for that. It's gonna be dope. It's gonna be dope. I mean, you filled in for our good friend Cooley, the curator, a couple of months ago for a Funk Friday.
Yes.
And in September. Your format's going to be different. You're going to be doing whatever you want to do now, not just being stuck in funk genre. Just playing all the hits that you find dear to you.
I'm playing the bangers. It's going to be a party.
It's going to be a party. It's a party. It's Friday night. Third Friday of every month. Yes. DJ Lady Bounce Phenom Friday. So be on the lookout for that. And like I said, be on the lookout for us. We're going if you need somebody to host your event, we are available. Continue to fly with us like I said, on all formats. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. I know people come up to me and talk about the show, or they'll send me a message. Yo, leave that message right on the page. Like, share episode on your page. Don't keep this self-care, mental health care to yourself. If like the saying, what's the saying? Be the change you want to see. If you're getting that information for us, share it so someone else can also get that information, so that we can each one teach one to make this a better world that we live in. You heard? Now let's get into my favorite part of the show. No, I forgot. Self-care assignment. Self-care assignment for this week.
We got to do a self-care assignment.
Self-care assignment. That's what the show is about, self-care.
All right. What's our assignment this week?
Our assignment for this week is reflect on your year. Write down the positives. Let's don't talk about the negatives. Let's talk about the positive things that you've done or have happened to you this year. And then write a list of some things positive that you want to do for the year coming up. Reflect on the positive. Plan for the positive. That is your self-care assignment for this week. Now let's get into my favorite part of that show. Brain science.
That is so funny every single time. All right. So we're talking about reminiscing and reflecting. So I'm going to talk about how nostalgia can be good for your health and your well-being. So whether you listen to music you used to love, look at old photos, page through yearbooks, or watch movies that take you back to happier times, you can evoke nostalgia to benefit your state of mind in a myriad of ways. Strolling down a pleasant memory lane can improve your mood and stimulate inspiration and motivation. Nostalgia can provide you with a window into your authentic self, according to a series of studies published in the 2015 issue of the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. And it can also give you a greater sense of meaning in your life. So, what are some health benefits of nostalgia? 1, it boosts your mood. It makes you happier. It triggers inspiration and motivation. It provides a glimpse of your authentic self. It can help you with problem solving. It helps you handle tough situations in healthier ways. It can give you a greater sense of meaning in your life. It can improve your relationships. So, how do we do this? So, because nostalgic recollections connect your past to your present self, These reminiscences can help you develop, maintain, or restore a sense of personal identity by weaving together the threads of your life story. This may be one reason why people who have Alzheimer's, they say when they're having a moment where they are remembering, 1929, and it's 2021, let them go with that memory. Let them explore it in all its facets, because it does help to boost your brain power. It boosts your mood, which is always important. Everybody wants to always be in a good mood. Nostalgia also builds up your psychological resilience. Compared to an ordinary memory, nostalgia is like putting on an extra layer of clothing before you go out into a winter's night. The coat buffers you against the threat of the cold air, so your memories do the same for your brain. That's important. You can even use the power of nostalgia to benefit your relationships. Remembering the good times in a romantic relationship provides a temporary boost to your satisfaction with the relationship. Nostalgia provides a way to mentally re-experience positive memories throughout a relationship. Positive feelings and fondness often accompany these memories, which can help promote satisfaction with the relationship. That is important. Everybody wants to be happy. We all deserve to be happy. And last but not least, if you are missing people from your past as you are having these nostalgic moments, try to reconnect with them. Social media is evil, but it also is very powerful, and it can be used in a positive way. When you find that friend that you haven't seen since 7th grade, just to check in with them. Nobody's saying you gotta, go back to being best friends, but just check in on them and say, hey, they might be thinking about you too. So social media has been very powerful in connecting you with old friends, of course, making new friends, but in some ways it has even put families back together and reconnected branches of families that you didn't even know were there. So that's important. So last but not least, you might think of nostalgia as a way to take a brief journey into your mental time machine. By reflecting on the best of your past, you can gather inspiration and insights that can help you retain or create a better future for yourself.
Word up. That made me think about two things. I know Shakesha Bell, aka the Pretty Priestess, talked about a technique, a ritual that she does, and traveling mentally back into time to, times that were great for her. And nostalgia is kind of what you said in the brain science. And also when Tyrone was talking about on his vigil, when he was talking about our episode last week, he said sometimes we have to not focus on the childhood trauma, but focus on the childhood triumphs.
Yes.
The things that were good, in your life. So yeah, word up. Reflection.
And just a side note to all of that, nobody has ever had a perfect parent or a perfect childhood. So when Tyrone was talking about, childhood triumph, just keep that in mind. Your life, even if it was tumultuous and bumpy, it wasn't always bad. There had to be some good pieces on there somewhere. I encourage you to go and find those happy moments, those glimpses, even if it was very short and it was very faint. Go find those moments, and it may even help turn around how you think about the negative aspects that you went through in your childhood. But there's no such thing as a perfect parent. There's no perfect children. There's no perfect childhood. Just it is what it is, and at some point you have to stop living with that trauma mindset and decide, am I going to let this define me for the rest of my life, or am I going to fix it so I can live the rest of my life?
Word up.
Word up.
Well, that's our show for today. I know we ran a little bit over time, but sometimes you get to reflecting and time passes you by. We are on all formats. You can find us on all formats, wherever you find your favorite podcast. Please like on the page, facebook.com/fly with us. Look us up. You can Google us, Fly With Us podcast. Google Fly With Us podcast. Make sure you tell a buddy, bring a pal. Tell somebody about us. Share our daily self-care assignment. Make sure you do that. You want to change the world. You want to be a positive spark in the world. Share our daily self-care assignment every day on your page. Do that for us, please. Do it for yourself. Do it for your friends. Do it for your friends list. Give them something dope. You heard? It's your boy Picket Fence.
I'm your girl, Lady Bounce.
We out of here.
Peace.
Peace.